right then, Marty. Can we go back to the beginning? Were you in fact discovered by Larry Parnes?
Well, yes, I was. Yeah, I wasn't discovered by Larry Parnes. I was half discovered. He discovered me after somebody else had discovered me. But he put the final seal on. He put the money in and organised the big shows. So I could do big shows.
What were you doing at the time?
I was working in an office in London, and I quit my job there. I gave them 2 weeks' notice and took a job working in cabaret in Soho for very small money, extremely small money. And whilst I was at that Soho venue, somebody tipped off Larry Parnes that there was a rock and roll singer who might be promising, might stand a chance.
Now, in those days you belonged to what was called the Larry Parnes stable.
Mm.
You were just one of many. What was it like in those days, being part of a machine in a sense?
Well, I didn't really like it. I resented the newcomers, obviously. I remember Tommy Steele half resented me, I think, when Larry took me over, because he had Tommy Steele already. Although Tommy was always very nice and everything, I think Tommy would think, the guy should really work on me and nobody else. And when these other new stars came in, I didn't think much of them anyway, most of them. And I didn't spend much time with them at all. It's only in the last few years that I've become friends with most of them, in actual fact, that were part of that stable. At the time, I felt they were a threat, and threats to me were something to keep out of the way, or try and ride over very quickly. I'm very mercenary.
Are there many left? Billy Fury, and nobody else springs to mind really.
Oh, there's
Tommy.
There's Tommy, there's Billy Fury, there's Vince Eager. Vince is doing very, very well. Now, in the old days, I used to really be always at loggerheads with Vince, and we get on great. He's a marvellous lad. It was just at that time, I was probably under pressure, and probably he was, and now we've grown older, we get on great. I met Johnny Gentle, who was part of that stable, and I don't think he's in it professionally now. I'm not quite sure about that, but he's still doing very well. He's a nice lad. Most of them are great guys.
Yeah.
But at that time, I didn't think they were.
Was that because you were doing basically all the same kind of material, Elvis type thing?
Yep.
You were really in competition with each other.
Very much so, and I was very dedicated to get to the top. My whole life was geared for that. I wasn't going to be messed around or pushed out by any newcomer coming in. I wanted to make sure that I got in first before they did.
At this time, Larry Parnes had about 7 or 8 different acts. Well, the same type of acts, really, didn't he, on his book?
Yes, he did, yeah.
This was a bad idea, surely.
No, I think that, I think that he really tried to cover the rock and roll market, to try and get every sort of angle covered, and every exit block sort of thing, and it probably worked. He did for quite a few years. He literally owned rock and roll in Britain. Mm.
Was this presumably, he cornered the whole market on the grounds that he thought it wasn't going to last forever, and that he'd make as much out of it as he could?
I don't know. I couldn't really honestly say that. I couldn't speak for Larry's mind. I would say that Larry probably thought that there was just more money in it. I don't think that he thought that maybe it would die. I didn't think rock and roll would die, even in those times. I thought rock and roll would stay on as it has done. I couldn't see what really was going to replace it, and I can't see it now.
No.
Only an advanced form of rock and roll,
Yeah,
but the beats of rock and roll, the offbeat, basic drum offbeat, and the excitement of rock and roll still remains in a lot of songs, and I don't think much will change that.
When did your first hit come along?
My first hit was in, I think it was about 1958. It was a song called Endless Sleep, and I was in Newcastle at the time, and I remember the chap delivered the papers, and it was a record Mirror, and I looked in the top 50, and there was my record, Endless Sleep, with my name on it. I always remember it was one of the most exciting things I'd ever felt in my life. Everything that I'd geared for was finally coming true.
What made you cover that particular song? Because of course it was already an American hit at the time.
It was picked for me by, let me see now, I think Larry Parnes heard it, Jack Good heard it, and Johnny Franz heard it. It was my A&R man at Philips Records, and between the three of them they picked it. I heard the Jody Reynolds version, the original version, and I preferred his version. In some ways I still do, because he did it in a sort of a country western fashion, which I quite like. And I quite like that version, although my version was very different. My version was far more sort of very sort of like an attacking version of the song, It wasn't a subtle version. Although, I wouldn't say the song is subtle, but my version was sort of really bang, straight in, take it or leave it.
Now, having had that one hit and gone straight to the top, you then had the big problem of following it up, which was always a difficult thing. How did you go about choosing a successor?
I didn't really choose a successor, and the successor wasn't a hit. This was a big downfall at that particular time. In fact, and the follow-up was called A Fire of Love, and the one after that, I can't remember now. It was also in the same sort of vein. It didn't do anything, and so we had almost a year or 6 or 8 months of no hits, and then then they played me Donna and said, I didn't like Donna in actual fact, but I cut it and it was a hit,
Who actually did the choosing? Did you have much say at that time?
Yeah, I had the final say. Most times they were so adamant, so convinced these songs would be hits, they would pick them for me. I started to choose around about the time after Teenager in Love, and I wrote Bad Boy, and I picked It's Been Nice, which was originally going to be the A-side but ended up as the B-side. Bad Boy I wrote, and from then on I just picked my own material. Jezebel and what was the song, I've forgotten it now. All the old ones anyway, most of those I picked myself, and a lot of the songs came from America, and I picked them in America. I went to America to record. Little Girl was recorded in America, and I picked that.
Really?
A lot of the material I picked, but at the early stages I wanted to pick material, and I wanted to do it my way, but they wouldn't let me. So that was just one of those things,
Actually, you mentioned It's Been Nice. It's always been one of my own particular favourite songs. You say it's one you wrote yourself.
No, not that. No, Bad Boy I wrote, the other side.
Didn't you write It's Been Nice as well?
No, It's Been Nice was written by Doc Pomus and Mort Schumann, and I was very big friends with both of them. And Mort Schumann was over in England, and he said, I've got this song. He said, it'd been originally written for a film called A Stone for Danny Fisher, which was for Elvis, which ended up as King Creole. And there were several songs in it that had been written for that film that Elvis hadn't bothered to touch, and it was his mistake that he didn't do It's Been Nice. Yeah.
Well, anyway, we got onto your songwriting there briefly. You've done a lot of songwriting over the years. Your most notable success, apart from Bad Boy, which is probably now way in the past, Abergavenny. How did you come to write Abergavenny? Why not Bognor Regis?
It doesn't sound good. It's too lumpy. It's too lumpy a word.
Yeah, but by the same token, Abergavenny was just as unlikely, really, wasn't it?
Well, not really, because if you take city titles or town titles, if you take the city alone, if you take London, it's ba ba. So you go London, da 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 London. If you got Abergavenny, it's da 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 da. It sounds like a brass figure. Da 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 da, and it was Abergavenny. So it was a natural thing, really, to follow on.
How did you pick on it then?
I was on my way to Swansea to do a pantomime, and I saw the signpost to Abergavenny, and I got very excited, and I wrote the name down and thought that'd be a great thing for a title. So that was the way it evolved, a very strange way.
Would you try to? You did, in fact, I think, try with another town title later on, didn't you?
I can't remember offhand. I may have done. I don't think so. There was Liverpool Hello and No Tramps to Lime Street.
That's right.
There were 2 songs.
Yes, you wrote those for a show, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think I would. I didn't go in for. I normally like moving on. I don't like sort of going over dead ground. And once you've done one thing, I just want to move on.
Yeah. Can we move on right up to about 1975? You just satisfy my curiosity. We've got a record at Devizes Hospice Radio by a guy called Shannon. Is that in fact Marty Wilde?
Is that Come Back and Love Me?
Yeah.
On Magnet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was myself. Yeah.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought the voice, was just too close to Marty Wilde to be somebody else.
Yeah. That's just been released in America.
Has it?
Yeah, it's just been released there.
Is this an attempt by you to do an Alvin Stardust by any chance?
No, I just wanted to do a country song. No, I couldn't do an Alvin Stardust. I've been around longer than he has.
I didn't mean in terms of putting on the act.
No, I know what you
change
mean.
Of name.
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, from that point of view. Well, no, not really. No, in so much as Shannon, when we had Abergavenny out in this country, it was under Marty Wilde. But when it went to America, where it was a hit, it was under Shannon.
Was it?
So we thought, well, this record, Come Back and Love Me, is going to be issued in America. So we'll go back under the name of Shannon because it was lucky the first time. You know, that's the only way it evolves. You know.
What is your involvement now in Magnet Records? You write with Peter Shelley, who's one of the big men in the...
Yeah, I write with Pete, and I've got a very open sort of thing with him. You know, I'm a very fly-by-night character, and I'm not always around when I'm really needed in the songwriting world. I don't really work that hard at it. You know, most of my time is spent in a mixture between sort of cabaret, writing, and playing golf, and those three things are the dominant, and they're all very. The most important probably is cabaret, in so much as it's immediate money, you know, talking very, very basically. My big love and joy is to write songs, and my big pastime is to play golf, so that my whole life really is split between the three. The writing has suffered over the last few years, but I've just bought myself an organ, quite a big job, and I'm having it installed in the house. And I'm hoping to get back to writing again, and sort of trying some new things, you know.
But there is no songwriting team, Marty Wilde, Peter Shelley, as such.
Well, there is when we get together, you know. I mean, Peter, you know, is a lovely lad to work with. He's a real nice person, and we're very similar in many ways. We always get on great. We love certain facets of the pop music, and that's our great boon, you know. As soon as we get together, we've basically got the same ideas, because pop music, for me, is basically fun, you know. It's just a thing you don't take very seriously, but it can be really good fun, nice fun. The serious side to music is something which I haven't really attempted yet, but I hope that'll come out in certainly the next 3 years anyway.
Now, over the past, well, all the time you've been in show business, in quite a few years, you've sung a variety of songs in a variety of styles. Is there any one style which is the essential Marty Wilde?
Oh, I don't think so. I think, no, I don't think so. You know, as a singer, you get influenced by many people. You'll go through a phase where maybe you're influenced by, I mean, as I was at one time, by Presley, Ray Charles, Dylan to a certain extent, in the way you approach, you know, you throw away lines. Brian Ferry, I think Brian Ferry is quite a big influence, because he's got a very definite positive style.
Yes.
You find all singers, you know, certain words might sound really good the way they pronounce them, you know, and you're inclined to, although you don't intend to. It's registered in your brain, you know, the computer. And when you're on stage, the computer starts, you know,
Yes.
throwing out a few things, and normally it's a mixture of many influences. You know, all singers are the same. There's, you know, any singer that could claim that he was original, I think should be put in a glass case and embalmed, so the world can look at him and bow down forever. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite singer now? Is there one above all?
No, I like. I'm very keen, just basically on all forms of music. I'm a great classical lover. I love classical music, and I also like the more serious side to pop music, or just should we say the more serious side to modern type music. There are a lot of very good groups that are coming through, and a lot of good sounds are coming through. Mostly, unfortunately, from America. But the few good ones that are coming through in this country are marvellous, you know. In America, I'm very keen on the East Coast sound. The West Coast sound. I like the Eagles, and you know, as everybody does. But in this country, we've taken a little bit of a battering, I think, over the last few years, except with the exception of people like Elton John and people like that have been very good. You know, he's done very, very well. But I think the chap that to my mind is going to do very, very well is the chap that did the Tubular Bells.
Mike Oldfield.
Yeah, I think Oldfield is the biggest, could be one of the biggest influences in music that this country's ever seen. I think he potentially is as good as, almost as good maybe as a Tchaikovsky.
Really?
Oh yeah, I think so. Given the right breaks and the right influences, and as long as money and other things don't get to him, which I don't think they will, but what I can gather. I like his, well I say I love his LPs. I think there's a lot of tremendous potentiality. A lot of people put him down, in actual fact. Musicians seem to put him down. Very good musos do. But, you know, I don't care what they say, you know. He's really got something. You know, he's really, there's a lot of soul in his music. And it's just beginning. He's just at the beginning. It's a wonderful thing. It's like a baby. It's like an embryo, you know.
Yeah.
He's just at the beginning. And if this lad can be untouched and unspoiled, I'd say in 20 years' time, when he's about 43, well, he's only very young, 44, he'll be a genius. He's going to be an absolute genius, that man. He's just going to give pleasure like Cassius Clay did to some people, if you're a heavyweight boxer. When you saw a Cassius Clay fight, you thought, in the early stages, you thought, this man is going to do incredible things, and I'm looking forward to the next time he fights. And it's the same with this lad. Now he's just beginning now, and it's going to be very interesting to see how his musical career evolves, because he's very clever musically. He's got the brain, he's got all the chances now, he's got the money.
Yeah.
I just hope he's got the inspiration, you know.
Of course, this is a big thing in pop music, having the money to be able to afford to do the things that you really want to do.
Yeah, I think that in most cases, though, you can do what you want to do. I think if you really believe in what you are, you will, you know, you can attain whatever you want. If, for example, you know, some groups say, oh, well, there's no money, you know, and we've flogged the road for years and years, and we tried out this sound. To hell with it. If it was that good, and it was as good as what you thought that it was, you know, if you really had something to offer, it will, in the end, crack it, and you will crack it. But if it hasn't got anything, well, that's tough luck. That's the way it goes, you know.
True.
That's democracy.
Yeah. Can we go back about 15, 20 years? I don't know. What made you record All American Boy? Was that for a gag?
No, the influence to record All American Boy basically came from Jack Good. We'd recorded it for a TV show. In fact, they've still got the film clips of that particular Oh Boy show. Somebody has, I know, because they said they were going to make it into a film quite recently. Jack Good picked the song out and said, I want you to do this, you know. And he was a kind of man who I respected and still do very much indeed. And I wasn't going to argue, so I thought, right. And he said, act it. He said, don't sing it, act it. So that was it, you know. That's the only way. I mean, I put it on my LP because I'd performed it on television, but...
Of course, you took it straight from the Bill Parsons version, the original.
Basically, yeah. But I like to think that in lots of the cover versions, I like to think that I added something. I never went out of my way to copy them vocally.
No.
Very few cases. Other artists did, I think. But I didn't intentionally. I mean, they just gave me the song and said, that's it, what do you think? You know, and I thought, well, I'll do this and I'll do that. In the case of All American Boy, I don't know really. I think it's a performing song more than a singing song.
Yes, it is.
You know, it's a kind of song where you've got to literally perform the song and let people see. I used to put it in my act until quite recently. Yeah.
That's a pity.
Yeah, I don't do it. No, I don't do it tonight. No.
I'll pick you up on the word performing there. You did a pretty fair job of performing in the film Jet Flight with Richard Attenborough.
Oh, that thing. Oh, God.
Well, no, that was pretty good, despite what you might think of it. You know, just from our point of view, sitting down in the stalls or wherever, watching the film. What was it like for you, acting for virtually your first time in a dramatic part with an actor of Attenborough's caliber? Was it frightening?
Bloody frightening. A bit awe-inspiring in a way. one feels lost. I mean, when you meet most of the people that you see, in the films, when you work films, are people that you've seen in previous films and you've lapped up. You think, oh, great, really fantastic. The guy really did a good job in that. And then when you actually meet them and you've got to do a scene with them, it's pretty hard, I can tell you. But most of the big stars, the film actors, I'd say about 80% of them are marvellous. They're just marvellous. They understand. They know what you're going through, and normally they encourage you.
You didn't catch any kind of a bug then to want to be a dramatic star, or just
not really
an actor of any kind?
No. There's too many good actors out of work. There's some tremendous actors in this country. Our country breeds actors like the Chinese breed people. I think most of our actors that hit the big time are normally very well proven commodities. They've gone through rep and everything else, and they've come up the hard way. And there's so many young people now, marvellous actors, and people that have never quite made it but are still marvellous actors. For me to ever, you know what I mean? I have no ambition that way. If I can get a part, great for a laugh. I mean, Stardust was just a part that which fell into my lap, and I took it. It was a laugh, and that was it. It was nothing serious about it. No, I couldn't take that very seriously, acting. Although I admire it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a marvellous art, incredible art in actual fact.
You've been around now for 17 years. You've done everything, one way or another. Films, TV, radio. You've written songs.
Longer than 17.
It's longer than that, is it?
Yeah. It's nearer 20. It's nearer 20.
Yes, I've got 58 in my mind. I associate.
Oh no, I was in. That's when I That's when I cracked it. But I started in '56.
I relate everything to do with the rock and roll era. You see, from Cliff Richard making the charts with "Move It" in 1958.
Yeah.
Everything from me, it kind of starts at that area. But of course, you were around before then. Why have you lasted so long? In the same way as Cliff has. There must be some thing that you could kind of pinpoint.
I think dedication to what I'm doing, to a certain extent. I'm not that. I don't rehearse very much. I think a lot about the business, and I think a lot about what I'm going to do. I try to plan to a certain extent. I think basically luck. I think talent comes into it to a certain extent, but there's so many talented people in this country. I mean, you can go to a pub and you hear a fella telling jokes, and you fall about the bar, and you're on your knees with laughter, and you realise that chap, if he'd have been pushed properly, and he had, if he was on a big ego trip and he wanted to get on stage, which most of them don't, you find. Yeah. If he wanted to get on stage and he could do exactly what he was doing now and be that relaxed, he'd crack it. But they don't, you see. People are very unsure of themselves. And this is the great thing which has come through in my life. Whatever you're going to do, you have to be positive. You've got to be positive. All this country is so bloody negative, pardon my swearing, but it is. It's a negative country. It hasn't always been, but so many people are. I see people, they dither, they bite nails, they're not sure what to do. Oh, if you're going to make a mistake, make a big one, but be positive. I keep telling my children this: whatever you're going to do in your life, make a decision. Don't hedge around. He who hesitates is lost, and it's an expression I grew up with when I was a child, and I've always remembered that. He who hesitates is lost, and it's very, very true. When you're going to make a decision, go for it. And in my case, I was lucky, don't get me wrong, but at least I knew what I wanted to do, and I can't stand ditherers, people that are unsure, and when I get unsure, I get very angry with myself, so that's my philosophy. I think we've got an incredible country, with marvellous people, as good as anywhere you'll find in the world. We just need to be a little bit more positive. I'd love to see that from the government downwards.
There's not much chance of the government changing.
No, I don't think so. But I'd like to see everybody being very positive. There's the dithering side to Great Britain that really I get annoyed at. Especially when I see youngsters today. Some of them are so unsure, and they're not helped really by the environment and society. worries me greatly that a lot of them, I know I'm going very political now, but a lot of them see they come out of school, they got all the qualifications, they're so bloody unsure, they can't get a job, and they don't know what they're going to do, and they sit around sucking thumbs for about 8 months. You know, the state pays them out, big deal, you know, that's nothing, that's 8 months wasted life. Absolutely waste, you know. And anyone listening, if you're unsure, stop bloody dithering and get down to it. That's my philosophy on life.
Over the years, you've written a lot of fine songs. Have you got any more in the pipeline that we could possibly look forward to hearing in the charts?
I don't really know. I mean, I can't say that anything I write is going to go in the charts. You can't say. I know what you mean, though, but you can't really say that. I just, as I say, I'm taking delivery of this organ in certainly about a week's time, and I'm looking forward to just writing again. I don't know how I'm going to write because lately I've gone very off pop music. I can look at it and so it's very nice, you know, but there's no sort of, doesn't hit me very hard, and I've gone into, not to say the serious side, but should we say a slightly more advanced side than pop music. And I think that most of the things I write, I don't think will be geared for the charts. If I ever feel that I have to write that again, through necessity or inspiration, whichever comes first, then I'll do it. But I'd like to do something really good, you know. I'd like to write something that was really, really something I could be extremely proud of. And apart from a few compositions that I've written, I'm not very proud of my work.
Really?
No, not really. No, they're just pop songs, you know. But some of the songs, a couple of them I do like. I liked Abergavenny, funny enough, because it wasn't a pretentious song. It was written basically for a brass band, because I love brass bands. And Abergavenny really should be performed by a big brass band, because it's a brass band number. And the other song that I wrote was Jessamine. But all the other things that I wrote that were chart successes don't really mean very much.
Have you got any particular favourite songwriters of today's breed? You know, like Harry Nilsson and the like.
Well, not really. No, I can see. I mean, Mike Oldfield is a composer. He's not really he's a composer, but he's a writer, but he isn't a lyric writer or anything. I think he is a very big inspiration to me at the moment. I think Paul Simon always has. I think Paul Simon is a complete songwriter, one of the few complete songwriters, you know. He can write an incredible melody with an incredible lyric, you know. And in fact, I think his lyrics will outlast his melody lines. I don't know, there's so many good writers, you know. And some of the kids that are coming through, you know, some of the young writers of today, they're brilliant, you know. They have all the promise in the world. And they are being positive as well. This is the nice thing. You find like people like the chap in Elton John is a good example. He's a very positive man. You know, he knew what he wanted, he did it, and when he writes, he's a very positive character, which it comes through in the music as well. There's so many of them. You know, Freddie Mercury, the lad from Queen, is potentially. I think his lyrics are questionable. Don't think they have very much depth. But the man's melody lines are really very intriguing.
Bohemian Rhapsody is a perfect example.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. I mean, that particular song, I think lyrically, I mean, if it gives me an explanation sheet, you know, I'll be pleased to give it a sort of an endorsement. But the musically, it really is fantastic. It could be literally an opera.
Yes.
You know, or it could be, you know, put down in sort of quite legit musical terms as a classical piece, and it would stand up. There's no question about it. So he's, you know, this is the lovely thing about this business, when you get young talent and new people coming in. You know, I'm not one of those that try to hog it. No. I love to see new talent. You know.
Of course, you mentioned the Eagles earlier. They write their own material as well.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are a very fine band, but basically they're a mixture of influences. There's many bands like Eagle in America. The group America, I think, are a very fine band. Poco, an incredible band, as good as the Eagles, in many ways better, I think, voice-wise, but maybe not as good as them instrumentally. But all those groups are basically copied off of Crosby, Stills and Nash, who are, to me, are the three
True.
Incredible greats of the, late 60s. Incredible.
Well, finally, Marty, because I know you've got to go on stage any minute now. Having done just about everything in show business, is there anything left for you? Any personal ambition which is left unrealised?
I think I would like to be. I would like one day to be appreciated. That may sound very corny.
It does slightly, yes.
But I mean, something I might do might last. Might be around in maybe 100 years or 200, maybe eternity. Just something that could last, instead of just being one in a, sort of a small number in a big pile of rock and roll singers.
I hope you achieve that ambition.
I hope so.
Oh, before you go, you mentioned something about a rhyme for devices.
Oh yeah, it was a very rude one, but I thought it was a laugh. We used to sing this little song. There was a young girl of devises with breasts of two different sizes. One was quite small and was nothing at all, but the other was big and won prizes. Ole! Boom boom!
Thank you very much, Marty.
Thank you.